good. All right. We needed to gavel this thing in.
Yes.
Bring this meeting to order at 6 o'clock for Thursday, May 8th. And the first item of business will be roll call.
Yes. Mr. Rendelman.
Here.
Mr. Freeze.
Present.
Ms. Wadsworth.
Present.
Mr. Morgan.
Present.
Chattermere will be about 15 minutes late.
Okay.
Ms. Hernandez.
Present.
All right. Second item is the approval of the minutes. The minutes are not completed, so we will defer that to our next meeting for review and approval. Next item we have is the agenda analysis. And are you, Public Works, doing that?
Well, the agenda analysis, I think, is where if the board members have anything they wanted to add to the agenda
Oh,
for
okay.
tonight.
I think we can just, I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Want to do a roll call? Let's see here. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Hearing none, the motion is passed. All right. The next one will be public comments. Have we had anybody approach us on anything? And seeing nobody present, we will move on to the next item. Next item will be new business discussion items. Our first is the National Night Out on August 5th. And that's Public Works?
Yep.
All right.
Well,
Mr. Vance, you're up.
it may be good news or bad news for some people, but we will not be doing the bicycle rodeo at National Night Out, which we enjoy doing it. The reason being is the police department, National Night Out really is a police department function, right? They just are kind enough to ask Public Works to participate. And for the last several years, I've done the bike rodeo. This year, they're changing up their format of where they put things. In this case, the dunk tank, that's very popular. They can't have it in their normal location. They want to put it in that circular paved area that we do the rodeo in, because apparently this year, right after National Night Out is done, they're going to have, it's either a movie in the park or concerts in the park. I forget, one of the two. So it's National Night Out, everybody kind of moves and packs up their stuff and disbands, and then they're going to have another function after that. So Public Works will have a booth there. I'm meeting with Audrey and Dana here in the next week or two to just kind of figure out what we would want to have on our booth and how we want to staff it and things like that. Usually the big focus, for those of you who've either been there or seen pictures or videos, is the bike rodeo, right? Attracts a lot of people. And the booth is just kind of there to give some handouts away and kind of augment the bike rodeo. So again, not sure what Public Works is going to do and at what capacity at National Night Out. But the event is still happening, so it's a fun event. I know I've seen Chris there before. You go every year.
We're there for Optimus.
Yeah.
But I'll pay if you want to get in the dunk tank, I'll spend some money.
I was wondering who was going to be first, and it's not surprising it was you, Chris. So I don't swim well.
I spent a lot of money last year on the chief.
I think a lot of people did. So anyway, National Night Out, no bike rodeo, so I won't be asking for help from the TAC board members.
All right, next one is the review of the annual goals on that, or that same subject, or is that something?
No,
separate?
different subject.
Okay,
So, yeah, we're on to the annual goals.
all right.
So Audrey and I are going to sort of tag team this to the best of our ability. You should have the sheet that's on your computer, the 24-25 TAC goals. These are what were discussed last year. The city commission goals, you can see on the right-hand side. The X's are where our TAC goals, where the board members, you felt your TAC goal coincides with the commission goal. So again, this is what we did last year, what we're currently in. Audrey has printed out a blank sheet. It's the same goals on the left side in the same order, but you can see the X's where they coincide with the commission goals are blank. And the reason being is the commission's new goals, which you also have in front of you, the 25-27 goals, they haven't changed drastically, I'd say, but they have kind of changed the order. So what Audrey and I thought we could do is get some input from the TAC board on a couple things. The goals themselves, and if we want to have discussions on changing the goals up, which is usually a good thing, if we want to have that discussion tonight, or if it's something that the TAC board would like to take this information, noodle over until the next meeting, that would be fine. But at some point, Audrey can attach the commission goals to the appropriate TAC goals. So graphically, like you see in the 24 and 25 sheet, you can see that, okay, this first goal from TAC, provide an annual review of the Oregon City Neighborhood Traffic Fact Sheet, engage the public in utilizing this document, information contained herein to facilitate traffic safety. That kind of coincides for 24 and 25 with goal 3 and 4 of the commission. So that's just an example of how we go through that. What am I missing? Okay. So again, I leave it up to the TAC board if you would like to take this evening and take some time and go through the goals one by one, see if they're still valid and still an attainable goal, and something that the TAC feels should be on goals moving forward. And that being said, if you would prefer to take some time on your own and look at the documents and come back, I think staff is fine with that also.
So for clarification, how does the X's and the various goals, is that a level of importance?
It's not based on a level of importance. The X's in the columns under City Commission are just to indicate how the TAC goal could relate to or be a part of or help facilitate the commission goal. So it's not ranked by importance or priority. It's just, again, what TAC goal helps meet the objective of the commission goal.
Okay.
So on the front page, you have our list, and on the back side of it are the commission goals. So you would align, like, this first line item is related to goal number 3 and 4 of the city commission. So if you read goal 3 and 4, they're related.
So for example, like remain involved in larger development related to transportation by tracking projects and providing comments. That's a TAC goal for 2024, 2025, and it aligns with the city's goals on goal 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Okay.
So we could almost look at, just the number of X's. I'm looking at 4 right here, that the one I just read, advise on and provides supportive transportation grant opportunities, the participation in the county transportation system, and providing the annual review in January of the Oregon City Neighborhood Traffic Fact Sheet. So those 4 those are TAC goals that also align well with the city's commission goals. And so you could ideally already start with like those 4, and then I don't know if the other ones are ones that we want to continue to look at for 2025, 2026.
So are we interested in solving the easy ones first? Ones that have the most X's, to see if there's anything we need to rearrange in that, such as remain involved in larger developments related to transportation by tracking projects and providing comments. Is there any changes to that? Number 4 and number 6 and 7 is not on the list. So 7 would not be related to that. You wanna start from the top?
Yeah.
Like maybe
Okay.
we just go through all of them.
All right, so let's start from the top, sorry about that. Provide an annual review in January of the Oregon City Neighborhood Traffic Fact Sheet, engaging in public and utilizing this document and information contained herein for the facility traffic safety. Currently, we're in 3 and 4. Is there any other additions on that?
I think in the, if I remember correctly, in the bylaws, we may have it written down that we're supposed to follow up on that every January. So we want to keep it, and then I would, later after we go through this, I'll try and, I'll work with Vance and Dana to cross-coordinate the goals to what the updated numbers are.
Okay.
So I think they're kind of similar, we just have to realign the numbers. So at least for that one, I think we're supposed to keep that one, just so you know, because it's a part of the bylaws.
That makes sense, and I was wondering if there are any other staff recommendations as we go through this. It would be just helpful to hear from staff if you have any ideas as to like, are some of these goals outdated, or are there some that are not on our list that maybe should be added? I'd love to hear from staff on that too. If you've, of course, you're still noodling as well, so it may not all come out at this meeting, but.
The only thing I wanted to point out was that the city commission's goals are different. So they don't align back to the 2020, like, these X's, yeah.
So
we
they're
don't-
they're in a different order, and that's where I think, so if you
Oh.
read through them, they're actually pretty similar, they're just maybe
Oh, okay.
reworded. And that's why it'll take time to kind of cross-reference them, and why I printed out that copy with a more detailed description of each one, so that we can better understand what their goals mean.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where we could go home and add more the next time we meet if we want to.
I mean, it seems like, they're number one, invest in city facilities and infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, roads are part of the infrastructure. So a lot of transportation is probably on top of the public utilities that are serving the citizens. I think a lot of our stuff here, it seems like almost would be number one. Being transportation related.
So is there any recommendation to change anything on the first line other than 3 and 4 with the city?
Yeah, I think keeping line 1 is, because it's a part of the bylaws, we're gonna keep it. And then, after we kind of go through all of them, we'll cross-coordinate which goals they now relate to. Maybe it's the same, but the numbers probably change, but the goals are still there. So maybe the next line item, engage with the community and education.
So right now, it's only goal 3 that they're looking at, making economic development and tourism.
I think these are all good ways of engaging with the community. If anything, we should be adding some more in because we haven't, not going to get to participate in National Night Out this year as much as we usually do. I don't know if we've gotten a chance to present to the Youth Advisory Commission. There have been plenty of neighborhood association participation, but maybe there's some other groups that we're not even thinking of that we can get out to that would help just get the word out about what we're doing in the community.
And we haven't participated in Citizen Academy or Chiefs Advisory, have we?
It was on the list from last year, but there wasn't any openings at that time. I've noticed that I checked online just a couple of months ago, and the the Citizen Academy opened back up, and so so that may be a possibility to do again this year. Starting at the top of the neighborhood associations, because I just completed the annual minutes. I think in 2023, there were a lot of visits to the neighborhood associations, but in 2024, there wasn't. And then for the Youth Advisory Commission, Vance and Ben went to visit them during this past year, so that was met.
So one of the questions I think was on the neighborhood associations, there was maybe 3 that didn't have anybody running them. Have those been filled yet? Are we all full with associations?
I don't think so, Tim. I can check with Dana. She might have a better handle on that than I do.
So,
I don't track the homeowners association.
so we need to get a head count of which ones are actually still fully active, and then maybe divide them up, and decide, who may attend one of those open ones. I remember doing one, and it was good.
So maybe re-pull the list of
Yeah.
what active associations there are, and then this year keep the goal that you'll each,
We'll each visit one.
So, I mean, some of the city goals really don't fit with like goal number 7, reduce homelessness in Oregon City. Doesn't really
Line with her.
line with ours. So I think, are these, the goals that we have here, still good? Do we need to revise them, remove, add? And then how does those goals line up
With the city.
with the city's priority? I think we need to think about that from like, I think the lens of transportation. And when we talk about, development itself drives transportation, planning is all linked. So I think, in my opinion, how do we advance safer roads, better roads, accessible to everybody, from like pedestrian to the, a vehicle, and then we look at those. I think when we really start thinking about it, like, there's not a lot of like, I think there's like 2, 3 goals here that would probably be on the lining up with the city commission goals.
And, you're absolutely correct. That's sort of my take on it also. And the way I look at the TAC goals as they compare with the city commission goals, you as a TAC board don't have to make sure that every TAC goal does line up perfectly with the city commission goal, because you can see in 24, 25, commission goal 6 and 7, the TAC really didn't have anything that checked those boxes. So just to kind of expand on your point, Chetamir, and just to make it known, I wouldn't want to see the TAC board get too wound up in matching every single TAC goal to a commission goal. I don't think, because there's some commission goals that I think TAC as a board would have a kind of a difficult time doing anything to help that particular commission goal. There are certainly a few that there is some ways to coincide there.
I would think probably the planning commission is something that we really need to be more in the loop on, because a lot of times people are not thinking of the other vision of, they plan something and then they don't realize they got 400 cars a day going by this area, and how are you gonna handle that impact on it? Or what's the escape route, and we've only had a few times, we've had presence from somebody from planning that showed up. I know they're interested in working with us, but I don't know, how do we structure that so that one of us can attend their meetings and be like an invited observation guest or whatever, or give them some insight with what we've been discussing. So maybe that's something we should work on.
I would be happy to nominate you, Tim, as the TAC liaison to the planning commission. Attend all their meetings.
There's too many, like, on Holcomb, there's one guy in the hole and 3 guys looking at him on Holcomb with that project over there. And every morning I go by, it's the same one guy in the hole and 3 guys on the outside looking at him. So, and we have a traffic jam up there.
I think according to Dana, a lot of demise on that project had to do with utilities.
Yeah, no, they've been staring at this line that wasn't supposed to be there.
It's challenging, especially when you find something that you're not supposed to find in the middle of construction. But I think my suggestion is maybe that I don't know if we can go through and so these are like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different goals, and I think they should be numbered as such, but is, like number 2, on this number 2, engage with community and education, neighborhood associations, we're doing it, and we want to be there, right?
Yes.
20 is plenty, is that still something that we want to work on?
But I think that we got feedback from the police department that we're really gonna have the manpower to enforce it.
So we're jumping ahead a little bit because this is in our review of the annual report, but I just wanted to make a correction for the record, and it says under 20 is plenty, that there was a final motion to deny the pursuing 20 is plenty program. This is incorrect. The motion was to just table it. So we are still, 20 is plenty is still active as a potentially active as a goal that we have. The police department, yes, I heard what the police department said, and they said that they can't go onto neighborhood streets. They're stretched thin as it is, but they are also willing to respond to complaints. And if there was a neighborhood street where people had a concern about, let's say the speed limit's 20 and people are regularly going 30 or higher, they would be willing to step in, just not with regular patrols. So where I saw it, the main reason that I thought we tabled it was we're awaiting further data as to how the traffic calming happened in Kenema, and then we can bring it back. We even have a recommendation, as it says in this annual report. We have a recommendation from the Elyville Association to pursue 20 is plenty, and from McLaughlin Neighborhood Association as well. There was a staff recommendation that we just pursue it for a couple more neighborhoods on selective streets. So, to me, it should remain as one of our goals for the year.
Understood. I believe it was our last TAC meeting, Jacob Wiley, our city recorder, had given the TAC board a briefing on some, do's and don'ts on communication, Robert's rules, things of that nature, and he covered Robert's rules. And I must admit, I can't say it verbatim, but basically to table a subject, it would need to have to be brought up at the next meeting. And if it was not brought up at the next meeting, then it was done at that point. So, but if the TAC wants to go down that road again, that's the board's decision. I will not make that decision
Well,
for you.
I guess we as a committee can recommend that this ultimately gets to the staff, and then the city commission that makes an action, right, on something like that. Mm-hmm. But where's the staff and the commission on that?
Well, the staff is not feeling a need to put time and effort into it, frankly, because of the analysis staff has already done in Kenema from conversations that staff has had with some neighborhood associations, not all. And I think it was probably over a year ago, I believe John Lewis had asked the commission about the concept of 20 is plenty and did not get, much support. That coupled with the fact that the police department said that They will not do any extra enforcement or patrols. And it seems that I recall a meeting here with the TAC board that there wasn't a lot of interest from the TAC board members at that time to pursue 20 is plenty.
And just because I typed the notes, I read through all of our minutes for the past year. It's more fresh in my mind in that the outcome had turned to, if a neighborhood wanted to lead it, we would support it, but we wouldn't go, we will more support slowing, like, what can we help them to slow down the traffic if they want to lead that, but we wouldn't be doing it ourselves.
So when we have authority, let's say you have a neighborhood association that has an issue in a specific area and they want to reduce the speed limit, we can still go ahead and implement a 20 in that zone if it meets the criteria, correct? To support their thing without putting speed humps in and.
You know, we would certainly support the neighborhood if there are roads that they're concerned about were candidates for speed humps or other traffic calming devices, bulb outs, things like that. As far as a neighborhood wanting to do 20 is plenty, you know, I don't know that we as staff have had the discussion. If we have a neighborhood and they only have a small section that they want 20 miles an hour, I don't know that we've had that conversation, meaning mainly me and Dana, on what that looks like. So I do not have an answer for you on that portion of it. But as Audrey mentioned, it seems that the conversation did go to, and the agreement was, if a neighborhood, Elyville, McLaughlin, if representatives felt they need to come to a TAC meeting, use their 3 minutes to explain why, in their opinion, it's needed, that's something that staff would certainly look into. And 20 and 20 is no different. Where staff is we're not going to actively go out and get more data because we've already got some data. We're not going to actively go out and pursue neighborhoods to try to get a citywide 20 is plenty program. We're not going to go there at this time.
And cost is also an issue.
Correct.
Yeah, you got sign change of all the speed limit signs.
So I would say, as much as we all love talking about 20 is plenty, let's concentrate on getting through the goals. And we can certainly discuss it back when we do the annual report.
I know, I'm just saying, I'm asking the members, do we want it to stay or not? I mean, we're going through goals, and I think that was, I guess, within this category is a sub-goal, like 20 is plenty, like, should it stay or we strike it out? And I guess we could vote on it and move on.
Well, it can stay, and if nothing happens, it's just one that we didn't complete.
Okay?
It's a goal.
And yeah, I hear what staff is saying, that it's no longer a city goal to go citywide on 20 is plenty, but we have had a couple of neighborhood associations come in and request it, or send us letters of support for it. So what I heard from our public works director at that last meeting was that we could just do it neighborhood by neighborhood, a few concentrated streets, in sections of the city like McLaughlin and Elyville that are more pedestrian friendly. And then it wouldn't have that cost concern either. So that's part of why.
Well, it would have a cost concern because you'd have to have signage and.
Sure, but not citywide. It would be a lower cost. That's what I'm saying, yes.
Well, but I think,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a McLaughlin Boulevard, a McLaughlin Association, how many signs there are? A lot, right?
Sure.
And who's gonna pay for that? I mean, I don't wanna honestly I think as a policy, if the whole city is on board this and then you're implementing across the city and there's money for it, I think it would be a maybe good thing, and I don't know, maybe not. I mean, I don't know how it's working in the city of Portland. I think I asked Dana before to talk to them and see if they have any data. Is it reducing accidents? Is it doing anything? You could plaque a bunch of signs, and if nobody's enforcing it, what's the point?
Exactly.
And then people will just do what they do. Doesn't do anything. We could leave it.
Okay, is there anything else on that engagement column that we need to discuss on those items?
I just had questions, I guess, on the last two. So the Citizen Academy, are we looking for somebody to attend or having one of us go and speak to them? And I know Chris knows far more than I do about it, but I attended it and I don't know, and it's been a long time. I'm not saying it's changed, I don't know where it's at, but I guess I personally don't know the value of one of us going to that, how that would help the transportation committee. But is there value of one of us, if there's a 5-minute slot or 10-minute slot, to just let the people in the community know about us? That was my understanding when I attended it, was for us to be more knowledgeable and have the tools and the resources to be kind of citizen activists. So I guess when I look at it differently. Is there a spot for us to maybe attend that academy for 5 or 10 minutes and just tell them who we are and about us versus having somebody attend it? And then I don't know what the chief advisory group is at all, so if somebody could educate me on that, that would be great, just so I know which way to think on that.
That's police and fire
Okay.
and neighborhood association.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And just regarding Citizen Academy, and I've been retired a really long time now, but in the past, it was geared, so citizens, it was police, so behind the scenes on what goes on in the department. So in my opinion, I think that one could get scratched.
Doesn't provide any value to us.
That's what I was thinking too.
Well, let's take it off.
Ready for keeping it, I guess, okay.
All right.
And also chief advisory, right? Both of them. Group Citizen Academy and Chief Advisory Group.
I could see where that could be beneficial if, I don't remember what their bylaws stated, but, and I think they meet, is it every other month or every third month, I think?
I know nothing about the chief.
But it's
advisor.
more roundtable, so if, police gives their info, fire gives theirs, and then roundtable for the neighborhoods. I think that one actually could be beneficial if, at least listening, if they had traffic info, it could come back here.
Do we have anybody that's interested in attending?
I wouldn't mind.
When
or
is it? Depending on,
Bruce.
yeah, depending on when it is, I could probably attend it.
So
Just
keep it,
figure out when the next one is or something.
All right. Looks like we have those documented there. Let's see, the first one we're gonna keep. Okay, number 3. Member participation needed as the community advisory committees work with related to Oregon City transportation with emphasis on safe routes to schools, October National Walk Bike School event, and grants. Grant the giveaway items, okay. Do we have any more Safe Walk to School bond, awards? Have we, any
I'm
other
not
ones
sure.
other than when it's under construction now? That's in the
Yeah.
pipeline?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Dana on that one,
Okay.
and I'm happy to do so.
It sounds like this goal is more about tabling an event, maybe at a school where we could have a table, giving away items to participants, so parents to help educate them about user responsibilities for roads and what the TAC does, those kinds of things. So I'd be willing to
That could maybe be
volunteer to,
family focus.
attend an event or two where, especially, in October, it sounds like we're focusing this around the National like bike walk to school events. So, you know, if there's like a parent, in the fall, there are often parent events where there'll be people from the community who have no idea what it is we do, and it's a good event. It's a good opportunity for us to get in front of families and give them a sticker for the kid, and then for the parent, maybe we have a printout of here's what TAC does, and here's how you can get involved in helping out Oregon City.
So,
That's, I think, the concept there, but I haven't done it yet, so I'm just making it up as I go along.
so question to staff, is there safe routes to school committee?
Not heard of one.
So, member participation as needed on community advisory committees with work related to Oregon City transportation with emphasis on safe route to school.
I've not heard of a committee. That's not to say there isn't one, and I just don't know about it, but.
Is
I
there,
know, but what are we,
I think it's mostly, the neighborhood associations complaining.
I also wonder,
It gets to us to do something. And then that kind of started the grant writing and then seeking the matching funds.
And
then
it could
implement
be a case where Dana and other staff in engineering, seek out the safe routes to school specific grants and just on their own accord, go after those grants to try to get projects done. But that's a good question, Senator. I don't know that the city has a safe routes to school committee. There are some municipalities that have full-time staff that are safe routes to school coordinators.
I know, that's also, I think we need to rethink this goal a little bit, because the way the money works is that either the city or the school district, they go after grant money for these safe routes to school. And yes, money goes through the Oregon DOT and gets in, so you apply for a grant. And then I think this will be more working with schools, like specifically with Oregon City School District, and looking there's, and helping them think, other projects and how we help work with the city to go after those grants.
yeah, that's what I was thinking is, and I don't know at which age level it stops at, but I live right by Gaffney Elementary. So I think about the volunteer safety officers or the fifth graders, I believe they are, but working with those sorts of people that hear, what are they hearing, the walks, maybe getting feedback, having their PTA do a survey. I agree with starting at the school level, because I just happen to live like a block away, so I see kids traveling. One side has sidewalks, one side doesn't. It just depends on the day of the week and the weather, which side of the road they're on. So I think, again, that feedback, I don't know if they do that at the middle schools, because I think the kids are a little bit older, and not too many of them are walking or riding their bikes per se. Maybe Gardner, because it's in a more populated community. But I think involving the schools, to me, is the right direction to head, to see if we can support them or if we can't.
Yeah, I think I would change this to be something that more be a bridge between the school district and the city, and see if we can, be a support to them going after the grants or something. But
So
yeah,
I just looked, and it does say the city of Oregon City has a program called Safe Routes to School. So,
I'm not involved with it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about
I
it.
know more, but I think
well, so let's find out. I think I'm just saying that the what's saying here doesn't at least make sense to me. I think we should change this goal.
Some words
Yeah.
mentioned of it.
Yeah.
So maybe rather than community advisory committees, we'll just say as liaison to the school district to work with the school district as needed.
Well, let's see what maybe talk to Dana, and then we could.
And it also could be involving the school bus. So if kids can't walk, like in my neighborhood, they get a bus service and we're a mile from the school. But because there's not a complete sidewalk all the way to the school, that's why they have the bus service. So that could be where the school district is like, we need to get, reduce the number of school buses. So if these are the problems where we don't have sidewalks, we need to develop those, and then we can use those buses to go for the children that are farther away from school. So
But
that's,
the work on the Holcomb right now isn't that part of the safe routes to
Yeah.
school? So that is
That
the
was a
problem.
grant.
Yeah, that's the grant. So
Yeah.
there's something going on. So I think, can we look into the city and what this, and realign this goal to be better, and then something that we could like take action on?
I was gonna say, I think that this is almost like a subset of number 7, I think, or sorry, number 6, where it says, advise on and provide supportive transportation grant opportunities. It feels like it's the same thing, it's just a safe route to schools, so I would just almost put it under there.
That's a good catch. They almost could be combined, couldn't they?
You could, and like anything else that fits under that, like, just, we're providing support on,
Well, there's safe routes to school, there's like a bike facility, there's different grants that, so I think we should maybe can you guys look into it and see how we could reorganize and because often when you apply for a grant, you need the support from community, from TAC, the more support you have, your chances are better to receiving some of those grants, so. Maybe think about how we, as a TAC, can help you advance those things. Is it going out to community and getting support for a grant? Is it, how do we fit into the thing?
Make notes on that and follow up with Dana so that we could talk about it more.
all right. Let's see.
I mean,
The next one was remaining involved in large developments related to transportation. That's pretty much the tolls and the Abernathy Bridge expansion, I would think. So I don't think there's anything we need to change on that. Because there might be
That
another
seems
one.
like a goal that should be ongoing, regardless of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
projects are currently happening.
Yeah, no, but I think that's how that came on, was because of the tolling and the work to the Abernathy Bridge. So
Could be.
that will be someday completed and we'll have another one.
well, I think also like, for example, like the whole like Roseman landfill, that project itself has such a gigantic transportation impacts that ultimately there wasn't enough money from the community to fund the offsite improvements. But I think, how do we, like, I guess the toll, and that will get itself resolved regardless what we like or not. Ultimately they'll go through a process, and maybe that will be back, maybe not. But what happens when there's a site right there across the shopping center by Safeway? It's empty, and when they do something there, it's so high intense, that has impact. I know that gets looked through the process, but like when some of those big projects come in that will like rally up the public, do we engage on those? Like the whole area where you live, like, when you put thousands in homes, like, should we have an opinion on that or not?
Well, the last one we got involved in was where the Home Depot is and the property to, what would that be? West of it, I guess. They're expanding in that, and they were gonna put in a, shopping center.
Yeah, that's
house.
That's the rivers, yeah, that's the rivers, yeah.
That was the last one. But that other one, I know that, every time I drive by there, I wonder what somebody's gonna do with that. That's a big piece of property. I think, was it a mobile home park at one time, or
No,
No idea.
it wasn't.
what was it?
It was a, I want to say auto part, but, junkyard type.
Really? With all that green grass in there?
Yeah, it didn't look like that. It wasn't pretty. It's called Dale's Auto Parts.
Oh, it's like a junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
And the city has anything going on with that?
It's not city property.
No, I mean, they haven't had any submissions about somebody wanting to do anything,
I'm
like
not
put
sure about
housing or something in there, or?
I'm not sure, Tim.
Okay.
Don't know.
I know on the Washington Street, I think there's some work by the city to finish up the Washington Street
Yep.
and make it complete there, running through by the old,
Landscape.
landscape supply.
Oh, yeah.
But then I think the city is also looking to or sell those properties there too or something,
Correct.
and then those will be developed.
But there is a project, I believe Dana reported out on last meeting, maybe. She was successful in getting some grant money, like $4 million to do sidewalks down Washington. RRFB at the Coasters driveway to get people from the Coasters parking lot across to the park.
Lighting.
And street lighting. That project, as I understand, would still happen regardless of if the city sells what we call the Stimson property where the landscape place was, so. And then there's, a developer that wants to do a hotel right there on the corner of 17th in Washington. 17th's a little dead end. There's like a little auto body shop, a historic home that's now a business in the back, and there's property back there.
Yeah, it's cleared or something.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a developer developing that portion of it,
Right next to the railroad track, though.
right next to it.
So we keep that.
I wanted to propose to actually change some of the verbiage on that because
Okay.
it says remain involved in larger developments. What does that mean? Like involve how? And then what size of development are we, when we're saying large? I'm proposing saying remain involved, like in where there's any impact to transportation. Remain involved in projects or developments or projects that may impact transportation. And so, this is, because this is already looking at like projects that have been approved if you're tracking something. Or that, at least that's how it reads to me anyway. That it's already something that's been approved and we're just tracking it now, but, I almost want to be more proactive and influence a decision, a project's, decision versus like after the fact.
Well, and then does this even make a sense to some extent? Because we have a planning commission that approves the projects and it goes through, and so
But should they be coming to TAC then?
I don't know. That's what we had a discussion at one point, like between TAC and planning commission, and I don't know if nothing really like came out of it. Like all those projects have to do traffic impact studies and it gets approved. So what is it that we're getting involved? I think, and to some extent, did we even get involved in the toll? I guess somebody went to the ODOT thing, but how do we, like, how do we, like, on this, like, how do we, I almost think on all these things, like, we provide some feedback ultimately to city commission, right? As advisory, and so, but how do we engage, like, is it when something of, some product of magnitude has to go to city commission, does it somehow come and to us and we look at it and provide feedback? Like, I sit on Clackamas County Design Review Board Committee, and so projects come in and we look them from aesthetics and different things, and we provide staff an opinion and suggestions of how to make the project better. And so where do we fit? Just tracking a project that we're going to redevelop the landfill and it's going to have roads around it doesn't really, not something that we provide value of anything to anybody.
But I think if you go back to like our goals that we're supposed, if we're attending neighborhood meetings, we're the voice for those neighborhoods. That when these projects come before the city, we can say, we are aware this has been raised before, or speak to anything else that has come before the committee, where we have had some influence, or we know, like, just, again, feedback from the community on like what they would like to see, that the 20 is plenty, or, just, again, from whatever we're hearing from the neighborhood associations, if we're attending, if we're meeting our goals by attending those things, I think that we're able to share that information back and have, give that to them.
Well, I give you an example. The icon development up in our neighborhood, there was two neighbors in my development that was very concerned about it because of the traffic, without the improvements and knowing how bad it was when we had the fires. So I went along to it for both things, and I identified to them, and look, I'm not here on the behalf of TAC, but I'm here on that as a citizen, but I'll give you some data that we know as TAC. They were unaware of how many cars were traveling on the road on Holcomb from 2 miles out to a quarter mile out from Redlands Road. And so I provided that data. I said, this is all public data. It's in the thing. Here's just where you can find it. And as you get closer to Redlands Road, the numbers increased. And the amount was pretty amazing. So I think if we can have that kind of input with them when they start looking at these big developments, like, okay, that's fine, but where's your other route, to mitigate some of this traffic? Because the car's already got 30,000 cars a week going down the road. Where are you gonna get these extra 10,000 are gonna be coming in there? And not every home has one car. It's probably like 2.5, for every home that is there. And they have more kids, they're gonna have more cars. So, some of the things was, in that project there was no parking other than your driveway. So there was no carve outs, where the people could park out, and you turn out to various neighborhoods, you can see there's just no place to go because there's just cars lined everywhere. So that impact from a citizen's point, letting them know before you start getting excited about rubber stamping this thing, look at the traffic problems that you're gonna have. And they really weren't aware of that, because I don't think they didn't indicate that they had any major concerns about the traffic volume. And the big point was moving the phase 3 was when they would open up the road, the county road, to get down to Redlands Road. And I said, no, you need to put that in first before you develop it. And then you can let it grow, from there. So we never got any answer back on exactly what they want, but we did get a good ear. So I think if TAC is involved in those things in advance, before the public gets upset about it, when they do these public notices and saying, here's a big thing, we can give them some of the traffic data that we know about. And then also the Public Works knowing about what projects are already in the forecast of being updated, sealing, asphalt replacement, things like that. So I think we, as a group, need to figure out a way to get more engaged with the planning commission before they make decisions, before the city has to deal with your department.
I think this whole, I would agree, remaining involved in large developments, almost like somehow we are the part of the development team. And then, related to transportation, by tracking projects and providing comments. Who's tracking projects?
I think Dana.
Dana is.
And are they bringing, there's gonna be this Roseman landfill? I don't think we don't really.
If that's what the TAC board wants to hear, we can take an hour and tell you all the problems.
I know, I'm just saying.
I don't think that's where you're going.
I'm like, what is relevant? At which point we know that project is controversial or large enough that's going to have the potential negative impacts, and then like being able either to be a, that sounding board or engage with people and explain, or like, I'm just saying, how do we, I'm just trying to see, how do we fit, you know, now that I'm reading this thing, it doesn't,
I think every project kind of in, like, could be impacting us, right? Like, I think about all the, I don't know what they're doing, all the street sewers and stuff like that, like, 3 different streets are torn up at the same time right now, so like, how could we have, and maybe we did play a role, I don't know. But like, I hear about it from friends and people in the offices all over Facebook of like, well, all is shut down in 3 spots. And so it's literally backed up from wherever it is down here by Grocery Outlet, up past like Fred Meyer's at times, right? Because how they're doing it. Did we have a voice in that? Did we not have a voice in that? How was that stuff thought out? So I think of like everything, like anything that has to do with like a big, like a major road, you know, whether it's a Leland or Malala. I think about like that Milwaukee corridor, they talk about fixing that stuff out. I know it's not controlled by us per se, but that's what I look at, like the bigger projects. If we're gonna come in and we're gonna close down, I don't know, Bruce's Court, right? That's probably not gonna have a huge impact, but as small as our city is, I think almost any major thoroughfare is an impact to us.
so for staff, I think, I mean, how do you, I guess again, how do you, like, what, like, when you have, like, Bruce said, like, big sewer project, and you're gonna have a significant impacts or a development that's gonna be impacting road and impacting, do you bring it to us and ask for opinion? And, you know, we are supposed to be engaging with public and then having a discussion? Or how does that work?
On some of the larger projects, there is community outreach prior to the project. Not all of them have that, though. Molalla, the big project that Dana did a couple of years ago, there were several opportunities for the community to include TAC to be involved or attend those outreach events. But no, not all city projects like sewer I&I or a water main line rises to the level where we seek advice from the TAC board. Maybe we should. I will leave that up to Dana and let her use her judgment on the size of the project, the potential traffic impacts. But, you know, I would say that the projects that we have that are just replacing infrastructure, it's temporary traffic impacts, which aren't great. Nobody likes them. I get that. But they're not permanent impacts like development, you know, new housing developments and things like that. So, you know, once these contractors are done, the streets are all going to be repaved and be back to normal.
I know, I'm just trying this as a goal, like how do we, as it sits right now, I don't understand.
I mean, you know, I can tell you that Dana and I could put some more thought into what projects we know are coming up and inform the TAC board. But then other than that, as far as the TAC involvement, I would leave that up to you.
So if you do the informant, then you can do the open discussion of other things to
If the
consider.
project has.
It's like
that
when you get
component.
3 people or 4 people together in an office, and then you decide about you're gonna do some, like, change the copy machine. And the boss thinks that you just need this copy machine because this is his budget. But then when everybody else gets in, then you find out, yes, we need scanning, we need collating, we need storage, we need document transfer. And all of a sudden, everybody's like happy. Except the guy that's paying for it. So I think maybe we can be that voice to look at something from a citizen's point of view of how this may impact everybody. And then you're armed with, well, you know, we discussed this and we have some concerns about how long this road's gonna be shut down because this is a bike route or this is a bus route. And then how's the house traffic gonna pick up these people on this, you know, major corridor? And a lot of times people are more interested in digging holes and getting their job done, but they're not aware of the impact around them while they're enjoying that space that's being isolated.
Yeah, I
Well,
think,
again, I am more than happy to get with Dana and have deeper discussions on.
Does that
on those
give you an
type-
idea? I mean, do you guys?
we could definitely provide constructive feedback on those kinds of projects. We're not here to stop development or
Correct.
stop construction projects from getting completed, but let's say that shutdown of Malala Avenue had come to us, we might have been able to say something like, we're gonna need some signage clearly delineating what the alternative routes are. I did see a sign saying Malala construction use alternate routes, but I don't think the average driver knows, okay, Lynn Avenue, 213, those are probably your two major alternate routes. Maybe we could have done a better job directing drivers to those alternate routes.
Lynn Avenue was closed.
Was it really? Okay. So,
That was my
yeah,
point.
so
is there like
timing of projects
major
too,
thoroughfares there, yeah.
we might be helpful in terms of
But you got that window. you
looking
know?
at timing of
when
projects
the
so that
work can be
alternate
done,
routes
that's
aren't
when the
also
work can be done.
locked up.
And I will just say really quickly on that note, Bruce, you'd mentioned all the projects, we've all talked about all the projects happen. I'm not gonna get into it tonight due to time, but maybe in our next meeting. Yes, many projects that were supposed to be staged in such a manner where they didn't overlap. But in construction, things happen. And next thing you know, now you have overlapping projects, but they still have to get done. And in a nutshell, that's kind of the scenario that we incurred here.
So the goal is not to stop the projects, it's to try to figure out how we get around the projects, keep the flow going.
But, keep in mind,
Yeah.
and if the TAC would like to, have the information of the projects that are coming, have a chance to, you need to look at plans, and I don't think the city is gonna ask citizens or even the TAC to give us plan review as such, right?
Yeah.
But, all these projects, like, there is a lot of time and money spent with engineering consultants and staff trying to do their best on figuring out alternate routes and detour routes, and again, the timing of the projects and things like that.
I think more like Lance in terms of just the 30,000 foot picture, like this is coming through and this is coming through. And then like what you guys think about, if we can be a sounding board and bounce off like, hey, we're thinking this, and then like, we may be able to say, oh, but like, that's gonna be really problematic because there's this event that you guys didn't recognize, like, oh, parade is happening. I mean, you should know about it because you put signs up, but I'm just saying, like, I think just being able to talk about those and provide the feedback, I think that what this goal to me is more than anything else, like, just being able to us raise concerns that we may, as a citizens may see and I think this should be rewritten, in my opinion. I don't know how to rewrite it, but
Maybe instead of being involved, that you're staying informed and providing input.
Updated, how about
feedback.
updated?
yeah, inform, provide feedback, whatever. I mean, we're here to, like, not be an obstruction, but hopefully like support in a sense and be able to say, yeah, this is a great idea and we support it, and, we can stand in front of the public and say, yeah, the city's doing the right thing.
To reduce citizen complaints.
It's everybody's goal, isn't it?
Yep.
Quality.
And the suggestion I was gonna make, I think, on the, impact, Malala, for example, would be sending out a letter to the residents in that area before that construction happens, and say, hey, we're going to be doing maintenance, or we're gonna be installing sewer, consider alternate routes. This is the timeframes that we're looking at. If you have any questions, you need to, whatever, they need to, provide something. I think I actually received a letter like that from
I think
you
they're
guys
actually
once
pretty good about that.
before.
Do we hit every project?
Cause
No,
my son
but-
was actually going to get married, and I was like, oh my God, no, you can't replace that pole, right? It was at
Oh,
our
yeah,
farm, and
right.
it was like the one pole that's there, and I'm like, you can't do it during this week, like, this is my son's wedding. So, yeah, just letters, I mean, we already have traffic control plan for, I think, when contractors get a permit, they have a traffic control plan that they have to abide by, and they're guiding traffic if there's impacts like the one on Malala, so, yeah.
Usually there are letters, and I can't say I'm copied on all of them, but maybe we can
I
see
think
if they could share more of that with, and I could forward them to all of you via email, or would that be helpful?
Well, you sent us those little notices about this road's gonna be down, closed and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
when I get those, I
Yeah.
forward all those to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, those work out. And I usually share them with our HOA, so in case people.
What you just explained is exactly one of the things TAC does and does well, maybe not enough of, but that scenario right there is perfect, right? You get information from staff about a project, you as a TAC board member then share it with the people you have contact with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So, I mean, that's 98,
textbook TAC work
I
right
send
there.
it to my
that's
line
98
center.
homes that I
What's that?
deal with.
I send it to my line center.
Like I started getting a bunch of questions like, why is, nobody working on Holcomb, you know? So I started getting texts and emails, and so I said, well, they found something that wasn't supposed to be there, is what I last heard. And I said, they're trying to figure out how to get it moved. And so everybody was kind of wondering, because all the flaggers were gone, you know, but the project was still a big dirt pile. So, and this was right during the Doge cuts, you know, and people were like, did they get to lose their funding? No, they didn't lose their funding. That was, you know, make done, money's in the bank.
Lose funding and leave the road. A mess.
I mean, people's minds just go nuts, you know, thinking all the worst of it. So, okay, well, let's move on, because we're gonna be here till midnight if we don't. The next one, let's see, was TAC focus, is the TAC campaign focus? Is that the next one?
Yep.
There's a distracted driving, drunk cars. I don't see anything changing on that.
Usually that was something I think we had kind of focused on for National Night Out,
Yeah.
like, and then also handouts at neighborhood association meetings, which I still have a lot of items that you can bring with you when you go to those meetings.
But it says, was this passed on to the Youth Advisory Commission?
It was an idea that it would be suggested to them that they would actually maybe pursue it more than you would, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
So maybe this was less of an importance last year. And so it was gonna be more like a handoff, like the Youth Advisory Commission was interested in topics that they can pursue, and we were gonna suggest this to them.
Okay, so we could take this off. Did that happen?
Yeah, I believe when Ben and I met with the Youth Advisory Committee, we mentioned that there were opportunities if the Youth Advisory Committee wanted to, you know, look for ways to campaign on distracted driving and drunk driving and try to give them some information and some guidance and left it up to them. I don't know if they did anything with it. And when I look at that goal, that just seems like a task more than anything, because it's so specific to, you know, passing it on to the Youth Advisory Committee. And again, this is just kind of Vance talking, not necessarily staff, but it just seems if the TAC wanted to have a goal where you actively campaigned and tried to do things in regards to make drunk driving and distracted driving awareness, I think that in itself is a goal, potentially, if you want to do it. I don't know that tying it to passing it on to one group or another necessarily is part of the goal.
And I think the previous year it was a goal, and we were talking about ways to like move it forward. And then and that's why we just added on that we would pass it on to.
Gotcha.
So the recommendation is to leave it intact or remove it?
It's your
I
goals.
got that, yeah.
I think we should leave the first sentence,
Yeah.
the second sentence about Youth Advisory Commission probably can go out. The first sentence is just what we should be doing citywide, so that includes Youth Advisory Commission, includes neighborhood associations. It's every single committee and group that we touch, we should be promoting distracted driving and drunk driving awareness. And as for Youth Advisory, last year, they decided to focus on mental health as their major goal. That's what I saw them passing out at the Pioneer Center. And so it'll depend as to the interest level of Youth Advisory Commission members each year as to what they want to pursue. We can we should probably be making a presentation to them every year because those Youth Advisory Commission members are going to change year to year and their interest levels in these might change as well in terms of what they want to promote themselves, but at least we can put it in front of those YAC members just to make sure that YAC members are all aware, and then they can hopefully pass it on to their peers in informal ways.
I would agree. I mean, one thing I'm looking as we were going through this thing, there's a lot of goals here and sub-goals. I really want to, I mean, some of them are like this, the one that we just discussed, number 4 is whatever, when something comes up, but we also have to think about as we have them 1 through 9. We also should think when we're done, at some point, prioritize them from 1 to 8 and 9, and really try to make some meaningful impact. Like, how do we even have campaign focused on distracted driving, drunk driving awareness? How do we do that?
That was my question, is like, how do we have an impact on that? And then could we have an impact on it? And I don't honestly know the answer. I would love to feel we do have an impact on that, but I think that's, excuse me, if that's gonna be our focus, then, how do we help focus that?
Well, when Ben and I went to some neighborhood association meetings, we had materials that were provided by the city, some of them donated by
Oregon
B&B
Impact.
Leasing and, Oregon Impact. So it specifically related to distracted driving and drunk driving. And we would hand out these materials at the neighborhood association, and some of them are stickers so that just give you an example. If you drive around McLaughlin on garbage day, some people have stickers that say something like "hang up your phone," and so it's not just for the neighborhood association members, because hopefully they're putting up these stickers and then other people see the stickers. So it, those impacts may have some ripple effects in that sense. It's a matter of, we only have so much bandwidth because we're down Henry, and we're only so many people to be able to volunteer at so many different events and hand out so many items.
No, I mean, I get handing out stuff, I guess, when I read it. To me, if it's a focus area, if I'm looking at it as like something I'm focusing on, I don't know the impact that a sticker has. I don't know the impact that a flyer has. Like, we have it, I live about a half mile from a bar. I probably see on average 1 accident a month, maybe I'll be generous, probably 6 accidents a year, literally in front of my house, and they're distracted driving or drunk driving. We have speed signs. The city's done a bunch of work to help do these things, but it's still occurring, right? So how do we, as a transportation committee, if we're looking at it, how do we have impact on that, right? I think about, not to beat it down, but like the 20 is plenty, right? Or a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone, or a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone. I feel like we have an impact there, right? We analyze it, we look at data, we say, hey, 30 is fine, 35 is fine, 25 is fine, right? There's something that we can truly do, and we have impact on it as a focus area. To try to get people to not drive distracted, not drive drunk, I just don't know how we do that as a committee, and if that's the best use of our energy. Is there something that we can do of higher impact? Not that's not important, because I agree all those are important, but is there something of more impact that we can actually say we can do, right? It's kind of like mowing your yard, right? When you start it and you finish it, you can see the impact that you made, right? I see this as I'm just watching the weeds grow. There's nothing I can really do. I'm just kind of watching it grow and grow and grow. As much as I want to get rid of the weeds, they're still there. So I want to bring value to us, which I believe everybody else does. That's obviously why we're hashing this out. But and I'm open for any idea, but the speed one just popped in my head because like we talked about 213 forever, right? They finally changed that speed down. I think it was 50 to 55. A couple neighborhoods, I think they lowered the speed from 30 to 25. Is it the school zones, we were talking about the safe school routes, right? Is that a focus we want to work on, right? Making sure that kids have bike lanes or sidewalks or proper signage, those sorts of things. Like that's what I look at when I'm here on the committee is, if I'm going to say it's a focus, my focus is on what can we truly do and improve that. I see that as if I was on like a police committee to try to help impact distracted driving and drinking driving.
And is that a better goal with something that, with a group that's involved with city police? Something that's gonna focus versus us. Like I see us more having benefit involving in county transportation system plan that's about to start versus trying to like focus on that campaign. So is it a goal? Do we keep it or is there other group that's better suited to deal with that?
So not to be so specific, do we just want to remove the last sentence that we'll be giving it to the Youth Advisory Commission and just leave it in the front part as that will work on the distracted driving awareness and we'll decide where it needs to go?
Seems reasonable.
So I would suggest that we just keep this first sentence as it is, remove the second sentence, and so that way it gives us flexibility on where we need to inform. There are those eyes up, look up eyes, I forget, I see the sticker every garbage day. There's a house on Holcomb, they haven't changed their trash can in 6 years.
Size up, phone down, is that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So maybe the garbage people, since it goes on their trash bills, it might be the new campaign for them. All right, let's move on to, any last comments on number 5? So we can get, moving on to the next one here.
I guess I'm still not understanding why we're keeping that as a campaign focus. I guess I'm really confused on that.
Well, we can reorganize it, and after we get this written out, then I think our next meeting, we can decide what's number 1 priority, what's number 9 priority.
I understand the reorganization of it, but we're moving on when there's clearly a distinction of why are we focusing on, whether it's number 1 or number 9, does it need to be on here, is my question. And so I'll say you and I have different opinions, so maybe we need the other 3 to make a decision.
So, okay, so you're saying that.
I don't think it's needed.
Number 5 needs to be stricken?
Well, either stricken or something that we can actually focus on. Somebody, as Chetmire mentioned, is it focusing on partnering with county work, those sorts of things, like where we truly have an impact. I just want something we can impact on. I feel like this falls under community engagement, right? Handing out stickers, letting them know about those sorts of things. I would see that as community engagement, not as a focus as a tech.
I kind of like that. I think maybe that whole thing should be moved under the number 2.
2.
And be a subtask.
Yeah, I think that would work great there.
Yeah, I agree. That's
That
good-
works
good
for me.
suggestion.
Then we have the county, so the next, number 7, has to do with getting involved in the county transportation system plan. And then Bruce and Julie and some others have mentioned just reducing speeds in a thoughtful way citywide. We're not calling it 20 is plenty anymore. We're not doing citywide 20 is plenty campaign, but looking at areas where we can tactically reduce speeds so we can get to what Bruce is saying with like seeing the results of our actions taking effect,
All right.
getting some results happening. So it's a suggestion for a new goal, since we're going from one, we've already reduced down from 9 to 8. So if we wanted to add a ninth goal in no particular order, maybe we take 20 is plenty out of community engagement, and then just have it be like a, tactical reduction of speeds in specific areas, provide recommendations for areas that could have reduced speeds or traffic calming, any kind of traffic calming installations.
Well, there was one that I worked on when I first came on board was speed reduction and obscured intersections. In other words, like vegetation growing out so you can't see
Yeah.
when you're trying to make a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn because the vegetation is growing out into the street. The speed reduction took me 2 years to get ODOT to reduce the speed at Redlands Road to Prairie Schooner. And they dropped it 5 miles when I really wanted them to drop it 10. Because
Right.
nothing's more frightening than sitting there trying to turn left on Redlands Road coming from the south and having cars coming at you at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, when ODOT's involved, it's a long process. That's part of why I'm saying we should be doing it right away.
So that subcategory you're talking about could be identifying, I forget what the word we used was, like poor visibility intersections and locations that need a review of speed posting.
Oh, yeah, I see that. I like that because I mean, we notice all the time, right? It's springtime, people's bushes grow. So like there's already some corners that are like hard to pull out, of, and looking at that line.
And
of
you
sight.
also have signage that is being blocked by vegetation.
Correct, and then and I think we could partner with, I can't, what is the community, is it called? Code enforcement.
And they're very good about that. That MyOC, you can put that on there and.
Yeah, I do it all the time in the app, so like when I'm out walking
Yeah.
or doing stuff like that, if I see it, I put it on there, and they'll respond back to you and say, hey, we talked to them, and let them know to trim up that, or we let the city know, and they're gonna come replace that sign, those sorts of things. So to me, that's what I look at, is
I
like,
think they're very
we have
responsive.
real-time impact, and that's, I think that's great stuff we can bring back to our community and our HOAs and say, hey, as we're on about doing things, we're focused on that, so I like that, that's a great idea. It's a great suggestion.
Speaking of missing signs, we have our street sign, Kitty Hawk and Holcomb, disappeared. During when the windstorm, it blew off, and it was laying on the sidewalk, and then somebody contacted me, and I was not even near home. And then when I got home, it disappeared. So I don't know if somebody from the city picked it up, but
We'd have had it put it back up.
did you put it back up?
We would have put it back up immediately.
Okay.
Are you in the city or the county?
We're in the city.
Okay, yep,
Brian
Buy
Smith's
this much.
garage.
gotcha, that's what I thought.
for Target.
No, it's probably in somebody's garage or bedroom.
Yeah,
I think it's somebody's bedroom.
wall.
I probably changed Kitty Hawk to something else.
I made a note of it, I'll have our sign guy check it out tomorrow.
I'll have to look when I go home, because it's right where I'm having to worry about getting hit by a car coming.
But see, Tim, if you'd used the MyOC
I
app,
know.
Yeah,
I'm a really good user.
that is a good app.
Yeah, I like it.
It's a good app.
Okay, so
Moving on.
since we eliminated one of the 9, let's replace that with speed reduction, impaired visibility of intersections. Or what's that title in there? Identifying those areas, like the ones that you guys were all successful with, like down at Redlands Road, the pizza place. It's so much nicer now that you can drive during the middle of the winter and you can actually see the driveway that you're turning in there because you have 3 streetlights that were installed there now. So that was poor lighting. That was the topic at the time, poor lighting, vegetation and obscuring the roadway and areas that need speed review.
so how would you like the goal worded?
Identifying
Okay,
areas that need proper lighting, intersection, vegetation overgrowth at intersections and speed, reduction consideration.
Traffic calming, maybe.
Yeah, traffic calming, speed reduction like that.
Yep.
And that's a
So for
lot, that's a
this-
mouthful.
For this goal though, are we actively going out then
No,
to
no,
go
we just-
look at this?
Well, no, I just think that we need to be aware of those things and have a way of reporting it, that needs to be looked at. Because when I did the light thing, and it was more of discussion with Dana and John and you, about how do we go about getting this done, and we found out that PGE had the poles, they could do it, there was the height, and they put the lights up. So, because that was a very dark area and cars were just flying there before they get to the traffic light. So that's been fixed. That's a successful result.
I'm just not quite sure how, I'm not cluing in on how this is a goal other than, because you had just mentioned, how do you kind of report these things, or how do you facilitate getting these types of things that you mentioned handled? And
Well, I
that-
think
and
all of us need
It's
to,
not really a goal.
no,
I mean, it's a
have
procedural thing we can
maybe
talk about.
developing a procedure of how to report these.
We have,
I think that,
Yeah.
that
And I don't
should
think these
move back
procedures
under
really do.
two. As a like, again, that's engagement with the community.
Yeah.
So being able to, like, how do you, like, I think I would put that as a sub goal of that, number two. And I don't think that we need to create another, like, to replace something we took out.
you don't have to have 9
No,
goals.
I
You
was
don't
gonna
have to
say,
have
I
nine.
feel
Yeah, I
like this is,
agree.
Yeah.
I feel like this is our mission though. This is, you know, it's how we go about it that, you know, so back to, you know, your point that like going to the meetings, going to the neighborhood meetings, that's where we're gonna get this information.
That's, yeah. When I went to the neighborhood meeting and I told her, nobody knew about the My OC app, you know, showed her what it looked like, how you download it. You got a noisy dog you're tired of hearing about, here's where you go. You got a pothole that's driving you nuts every time you drive by it, here's where you go, you know? And letting people know how to report these things so that the city, can be aware of it, then they can schedule it and do something about it. That's our goal, is to conform the community through those events. So that keeps us on our list when we go visit them. What are you going to do? Okay,
Well, it seems like there's appetite on this committee to have more traffic calming measures, more speed reduction throughout the city. Currently, I don't think the city has any, at least as of the most recent report we got 2 months ago, there weren't any speed reductions being proposed on any of the streets around town. So maybe we could develop a list of our top 10 streets that we would recommend staff look at for potential speed reduction.
Well, I think.
And traffic calming.
So Raymond, at one point, I mean, Dana and John, I think they went through and they actually did analysis to look which streets to reduce the speeds to 20. So the city already has done this.
Sure.
They walked these streets and did a lot of stuff. So I think that already exists. I don't think that the city is against reducing speeds. I mean, I think, and if anything, I've been here for a long time, maybe a decade. We have done things where the city pursued these things. And I think the why I sit on this committee, I really want to make an impact and make us, you know, city infrastructure work better, provide feedback and opinion. And how do we make this Oregon City streets a safer, better working, you know, and work for everybody. So I think when I think about these goals, I think the goals need to be done in such a way that we're here to help them, you know, make the streets work better for all of us. And I think how do we engage? And I think there's a lot of stuff, and some of the stuff fits in these goals. And I think I honestly want us to see this year, like, make an impact. Like, take something and make it happen. And I feel like I accomplished something. Like, we talk a lot of stuff, but then and I know you guys engage with neighborhoods, and I'm outside of that, any of those neighborhoods. So I should do some of it, but I feel like we need to have something that we can make an impact. And I think if it's reducing speed, or instead of 20 is plenty, we could just talk about like this, what we just add traffic calming, speed calming. I mean, if it's, I don't think that needs to be a goal by itself. I think if we go to the neighborhood commission and people are really complaining like this street is a horrible and people speed, and I think we should bring it here and then engage with Public Works and say, hey, you really need to look at this. And I think over the years, both John Lewis, they were always responsive, engaged, and action. Things actually happen here. I mean, like, it's amazing. Like, you could bring something up and then they come back either like a next meeting or meeting after that. It's like, here's what we're doing. So things happen. Like, we engage and things happen. So I think, how do we do that? And so make more things happen. And I think even if we have 3 goals this year that we could actually accomplish, like having 9, 10 goals that we're not like, we just need to have something that, we're going to focus this year, and like some of it is just check in with the city, but something that we're really going to go make happen. And maybe we keep all not 8, 7, 10, 15, but like when we reprioritize them, really need to focus on something and have an impact.
I think it would be good to have some short-term goals that we can do, some quick wins that we can see and like you said, have that are tangible and that we can fulfill by the end of this year. And then, next year have, the longer term goal can extend for a greater period of time.
Okay. Number 7, participating in the county transportation system plan, the TSP. Was that really a goal? Because we already do that.
I've heard Dana say that it should be a goal.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing about the county TSP is it's not a yearly thing. I think it's coming soon. And I know Dana has expressed an interest or desire to have TAC or a TAC representative involved with the county in that process if possible.
Okay.
Yep. Again, hard part, it's not a yearly thing. And I don't know that Dana does she have a date on when they're gonna do that?
I don't know that she has the date, but she has been talking about it, that it's happening, like it's gonna be coming.
Well, I know it's happening because my company's doing it. We were awarded the contract, and I think we're negotiating with the county. It's, I don't know when the process will start, but I know that I sit on the Clackamas County, registration fees that we pay for Community Road Fund Committee. And we were told that there's going to be a whole committee, advisory committee for the county TSP, and so probably being part of that committee as a maybe one of the representatives from the city.
Yeah.
So I think like I wouldn't, because my company's doing the work, I wouldn't want to be part of it, but I think if somebody's really passionate about it, I think it would be, and I think it takes a couple of years for that to be done, and I don't know how many meetings they have envisioned as a feedback. I don't think it's monthly, but there's going to be a number of meetings. So I think I would urge whoever has a time and to think about it.
Okay.
I think it should be a goal, because definitely that plan will have an impact on our city.
Very long-term impact.
And does the city have their own, the city has its own TSP, right?
I believe so, yes.
When is that supposed to be updated? And how old is it?
I think it's old and I think it's past due.
Can you follow up with Dana on
Yeah.
that and see? I think as a TAC, we would have more role into the, in the city TSP. I could see where we could have more meaningful impact. I think on county, I think having somebody from from TAC would be very useful.
Should we put participation in the city/county transportation system plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Moving on to number 8. Establish a recommendation for standard capacity. Are we talking about capacity, road capacity, or?
As I recall, that was what that goal was supposed to be. I'm not sure who recommended it or how it got in there, because that's a goal that, you know, when I was reading over this today and familiarizing myself with it, I wondered to myself, you know, how would TAC do that? Right? How would TAC, I mean, because as it's stated, it would take a lot of analysis of roads, and I don't know why that one's in there. I think it's above and beyond what the TAC.
I think if I'm stormwater engineer, but I'm gonna put my transportation thing. I think the capacity really has to do with the whole transportation system plan. You're looking land use and all these things, and you're trying to establish like where you got capacity and how to improve it. Like, is this intersection failing out of the capacity? Like Redland Road, 213, huge capacity problem, millions of dollars. That's why the whole Roseman landfill project failed. It's in tune of $30 million. And so I think, to me, that really should be part of the 7. When you look at the capacity of the infrastructure, it's like each intersection can move so many vehicles and it fails. And so I don't know how, I mean, that's a whole like traffic analyses and stuff. I don't think that this should be a goal for us. I mean,
Agreed.
So we combine 7 and 8, we could also combine 9 with 2. So that's all part of engagement with the community. If you're not openly listening to citizens' requests, then you're not really engaging with the community.
yeah, I agree. I think 9 should be moved to 2. So I think we are consolidating some of these things.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have it reworked there.
I think this was the most conversation I ever had on the goals since I've been on a TAC a long time. But I think this is actually useful. And I think we all kind of understand. We need to just figure out how we're going to prioritize it. So I'm thinking maybe Audrey, when you like retype and all this stuff, send it to us, and then we could think through like, maybe we should talk about how do we go about
I think
prioritizing?
what we can do is, when it's finished, you can send it to us, and then we'll send in any recommendations for corrections, so that it's good to go, and then we have the next meeting, then we can move it forward, so you don't have to do any more corrections.
Yeah, and if you want to.
I don't think you're gonna have any corrections, but, you know,
But if you want to rewrite it,
Yeah.
I can combine like if 2 different people.
opinion, here's
Suggestions. We
the
can
the
talk.
discussion, and here's the suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. We are on to, what's this? Review annual report. And before us here, we have the time in service and time of renewal, it looks like, for the board members.
I was right,
Is
decade.
Petronella's still,
I think she went through December of 2024. This is the
Oh,
2024
okay,
report.
okay.
Any changes in there? Meetings, we had 7 meetings in 24?
Right, it may have changed. I went through a couple different things.
All right, the next part was let's see. Those were our topics. Okay, I don't think there's any. Feels like we just discussed all this. Okay, moving on. And the data's doing well on the rover?
Yeah.
Informing you of potholes and stuff like that?
It is.
So we get an extra buck when we send one in that they forgot?
I'll give you $1 if you send one in that they forgot.
I got one for you. I got one for you.
On the, as we were going through this, I'm trying to call the City of Milwaukee Safe Program. I know Dana presented, but just a question for you. Have you guys looked into what would it take to create something in Oregon City?
I don't think we've really delved into it. I mean, there's been discussion about what others are doing. Discussion, does Oregon City need to do something like that? Answer is probably yes. But unless there's been conversations at Dana's level that I don't know about, I don't believe they have.
And like for last, I don't know, like since September, I park in Milwaukee and I bike downtown. And now that I use at least 2 modes of transportation, I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to have sidewalks here. What a bike lane. So now, so I could, now that I'm driving around the Oregon City, I'm like thinking like, like, because, and we're working at, like, we're doing a project for City of Milwaukee on King Road. They're building multi-use path. There's one on Stanley that they're going to be doing. They did the 43rd. They're doing, the county did Linwood. And we're doing their TSP, and they are really like working and after grants, and they got money, and they're putting these things everywhere. And it's making City of Milwaukee a much better place to move around. And I would want to see this, you know, Dana come back and you guys and see, can we advance something like this? And especially since the commission goal is to invest in city facilities and infrastructure. And see, this thing to me is like, I see a lot of value in making some investments in something like this.
I would be supportive of that as well.
Yeah. Dana and I will and Audrey will bring this up to her and have a conversation and try to bring that back and, you know, hopefully give a little more insight as to, you know, what the city can do, maybe is planning to do. I don't know that we're planning on enabling any more fees. I think because I believe Milwaukee, didn't they have a combination of some grant money but they do have a fee that they
Yes,
charge the citizens. And in Oregon City, we've got some other things that we need to charge fees for. And it could be a timing of which, you know, city asset or department do we want to, you know, go to the public and start fees? I think that might be part of the conversation, but.
And I think that's fine. And I think and I guess maybe I need to read in here, invest in city facilities and infrastructure, talks about in here. So I need to read what that is.
Yeah, and when I said I would be supportive of it, I meant just supportive of an update as to where we are on the fee schedules. And, you know, I don't remember when our public safety building fee is expiring. I mean, I remember we authorized that a while back to build the Robert Libke building, but at some point that be sunsetting, and so thinking about coordinating with commission as to like providing recommendations, you know, if there's a fee sunsetting, and we're thinking about extending it for another 20 years, what investments would we be considering making? That's the kind of recommendations that we could be useful in terms of just providing those advisory opinions to city commission.
I think that's where the TAC can really engage if, you know, and out there, you know, if the city was to pursue some of those things, be out there and lobby for and talking to public and advocating for something like that. Like, here's what you're gonna get. And I think people, when you are putting the projects in the ground, you advertise it or you display it, says like, this is paid. I seen this on like a community road fund, because part of the money is coming to city, but a lot, you know, also going to Clackamas County. And they're spreading projects throughout the county. And we actually got the feedback. I mean, it's a large committee, people from everywhere, and they're talking to the public, and projects are going in the ground, streets are being paved. And I think when you do that, then people are more than willing to continue putting money. So I think something, I want to see maybe like follow up on that.
Good.
Okay, let's see. So do we need to talk about these different topics, or we just need to scan through them?
I noticed that one and I,
Are you looking for a motion, or is staff looking for a motion that we review the annual report and approve it as written, so that we're all in agreement that this is a report that reflects what we did over the past year?
Because, you know, Bruce will be, once this is approved, Bruce will then present in front of the commission, correct? Bruce, I volunteered you. Sorry. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's my time.
I've been staring at you all evening, and Bruce, sorry about that.
Just giving me something to do to keep busy. I appreciate it.
Ben will present this in the goals to the city commission once they've been approved.
So I would say, you know, go through the document. If you see things that you'd like us to alter, or things, you know, want to discuss in more detail, we certainly can. But again, it's looking for consensus from the board to get them to Ben and take it in front of the commission.
a lot of stuff we covered over the,
Sure we didn't miss anything?
I can't recall, I'm sure.
Audrey
we
said
covered
she
it.
went through all the minutes, so I'm sure she got everything.
And I would like, as you guys are reading, I would like to publicly acknowledge Audrey's efforts in this report.
Absolutely.
And many other things when it comes to, like most other things. This was all her, right?
Oh, I think
And her, you know, diligence in spending lots of time doing this, so good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Makes our life a lot easier.
It's been kind of a blur, because you think, was that last year, or was that the year before? You know? Because there's some subjects I was thinking of, and I think, oh, it's been 23. All right, cool. So we're done with that. Next item is the city's emergency response plan and evacuation.
Well, I'd like to
Mr.
talk a
Vance?
little bit about actually presenting, because we've got 10 minutes left. I have 16 slides and 6 pages of text. So that being said, I can't cover it in 10 minutes. And one thing I don't have any information to give you all is evacuation routes. And I know that's a topic that everybody is very anxious to hear about. We are still waiting on the county to finalize their evacuation routes. I've had discussions with the chief of police and our internal emergency management folks, which is myself, Dana, the chief, 2 captains, and one of the chief's admin staff. Our intent is to get that county plan, think about a more focused city plan, because we don't know as of yet how detailed the county plan will be within the city limits, okay? So what I propose, since we're at a time, I'd like to push the emergency operation plan report to the next meeting, and then hopefully the next meeting I will have some good info for TAC in regards to evacuations.
Okay. I think a lot of people are interested in that. Can we have that, meeting item first?
I spent so much time, yes, we can.
Just so that it gives the proper amount of time of
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Because I think evacuation is always a concern. And we're getting into evacuation season too.
And I would say, that absolutely, yes, more than happy to talk about it first and give it, ample time. It is kind of dependent on when we get the information from the county.
Sure.
And I do know that myself and Dana will work with the chief, as quickly as we can and the captains to look at our city roads in more detail. So if we have all of that put together in a package that we can really present you some meaningful information, that's our intent. But if we don't, we'll let you know and we'll give you what we have, at that time and then cover the EOP.
So the question is, are we gonna have, that'll be 2 months from now, or are we going to have a meeting for the month of June?
I would say it'd be 2 months from now, because even if we got the info from the county next week, we wouldn't have time, myself and Dana working with the police chief and the captains to really dial it in at the city level.
Okay. And do you know if we're planning on not having a meeting in June?
We're not having a meeting in June unless we need it.
Okay, so you got 2 months.
We're keeping to the every 2 months unless
Exactly.
we decide
And
there's something.
I'm
we
hoping
need.
that 2 months that I can have some, good info that is meaningful.
All right, so we will table that discussion as the first item in the July July meeting. Will we have a July meeting?
July, yes.
July.
We just won't have an August or,
Right.
Just every other
Then
month.
September.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
just trying to figure out how this calendar goes, because during the summer, we usually kind of take a
We usually
vacation.
do.
Okay,
July 10th, we'll meet next. And then it'd be September 11th.
cool.
I would make a suggestion, since we're doing the bi-monthly, and I know it's a 2 hour, but we would have these every month, maybe and I'm okay if having a bi-monthly, but maybe if we think it needs to be 2.5 hour agenda to go through, rather than trying to slam a lot of stuff in 2 hours. I would rather take it 30 minutes more. I mean, to go through it and have a proper amount of time for discussion and things like that.
I'm okay with 2.5 hours, but we have to be respectful of, anyone who has a commitment, staff time and all of that, so.
No, I understand. I was just saying, just think when putting agenda together, is it reasonable to be there for 2 hours or?
Well, and I think what we
it's
did
right.
tonight was a little out of the norm too, with going over the goals, so that took more time than
I'll take it.
what we
Yeah.
normally would at a meeting, so.
I would agree with that. The first meeting we did 2 months ago, good content. It worked out. We filled it right to 2 hours on the money. I see where you're going, and I'm happy to discuss with Dana to see if that's something, she'd be amenable to. I think we would, but,
I don't think it has to be I'm just saying if
If need be.
I would rather personally, having that other, as needed meeting, if you feel like it can wait and maybe make it 15 minutes longer agenda to discuss something than having to come in for 30 minutes or something. That's just my take.
All right, moving on. Communications.
Would you like me to start? I attended on April 30th, a focus group. It's the Clackamas County Travel Options Action Plan. That's quite a mouthful. But essentially, what they're trying to figure out by getting people together is how they can get people greater understanding countywide of the various options that are out there besides getting in your car to get around the county. And so one of the things that they were talking about was that shuttle bus that the county runs. They have 2 different shuttle buses in Oregon City. We're all aware of it, but there isn't a lot of awareness countywide. They did a survey and realized that there isn't a lot of awareness about any other options besides driving. People don't know where the bike lanes are. People don't know the bus routes. And so how can they just get people more aware of what's going on? So they have a budget, but it's all for signage and just campaigns, advertising, that sort of thing. So it's the sort of thing for a potential future agenda item. I'm jumping ahead again, but we could get someone from the county to come and talk about it when we have more than 2 minutes in our meeting. We could put it in a future agenda item along with this McLaughlin Boulevard Enhancement Project. It's pretty exciting since we had our last meeting discussing the enhancement project. City Commission approved it. So that's a project that in theory can move forward if it gets funding. So those are kind of 2 topics that I would like to see us talk about in future agendas, if you all are amenable.
For the Oregon City shuttle, we have had a presentation on it.
Yeah, we did. I just not specifically on the shuttle. I was suggesting that the folks who put together the focus group, so Anthony DeSimon was leading the focus group along with Scott at the Clackamas County Transportation, and so more broadly discussing how they are raising awareness about travel options through their action plan countywide. And a lot of those services are in Oregon City. We're the kind of the transportation hub for Clackamas County. A lot of different services like the Canby Area Transit was brought up as well as, like, you know, if they're losing funding or if they're not going as frequently, you know, how is the Oregon City Transit Center going to raise awareness about that? So there are a lot of different things for countywide transportation that run through Oregon City, and so they're trying to coordinate that, but I think I was the only one from Oregon City in that focus group. It was just to get input. It didn't really discuss how are they moving forward. I think they're still in process of that. So maybe by July they'll have a better idea of like what exactly they're going to use their budget on in terms of getting the word out.
All right, any other communication items?
Nothing.
Next item is future agenda.
I have one thing. I was wondering, I know that Clackamas County has a process for community road funds that come in and they look at the projects and they have a committee that prioritize those. And then the county comes and we have like a meeting maybe twice a year, and then we get an update where the money is coming and where the money is going out and which projects, we get update on those projects that were prioritized. And I'm wondering, the community road fund that comes into Oregon City, does that go into general fund? I mean, or your transportation, where does that where do those funds get implemented? And then I'm wondering like, is there like an opportunity for maybe TAC to maybe help, you know, provide input, you know, on those projects and things like that?
So a couple things, just so I'm clear, have us report out on what the city has done with and intends to do with the funds we get from the county for the
Community Road Fund.
Community Road
Funds.
Fund. And then, what projects, how it's spent in OC. Yeah, we can put something together for that, for sure. By the way, I'll make it real quick. Now that I know that you participate on that board. So I live out Redland Road, out past Cafe, and that large project on Ferguson and Bradley, put in the turn lanes, works really good. It's fantastic.
I know, and that's how those funds are being, and I think we're getting feedback from people that, like, I did the project down Canby Markham for the county, and so things are happening, and I'm just curious, how does that, when those funds come to the city, where they go, how they get spent, and can we engage, you know, to be able to, you know, is that good use? Should it go to this project or that project? And like, is there a way to provide an input? The county has like the whole group to look at projects and money, but I don't know if city does that, or how does that work on the city side?
Good, that's a good one.
Future agenda items, suggestions for our next meeting?
Moving the one that Vance has.
Not a lot of speaking time next meeting.
I won't make it John Lewis long. I'll do a more than Vance long usually, so.
And some other topics that we have listed possibly are reviewing the 2024 annual PMUF report. We may have our assistant city engineer present on the sidewalk permits and the 2025 paving summer construction insert. I've been communicating with the ODOT about I-205 Abernathy Bridge project update. So we'll see if they come too.
Those are cool.
So far.
There's a lot of stuff.
Could be a 2.5-hour meeting.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you might get what you asked for there.
Yeah.
So you gotta remember, you're saving that extra, every other month that we're not talking, we gotta talk about
I mean,
something else.
I think we should try to arrange our agenda with topics that we feel we can fit in comfortably in 2 hours. But if we know we have a lot of stuff to cover and we want to get it to you, I think it would take some notice, right, for staff and for you all, beforehand to go, okay, we've got a lot of stuff. Is everybody good with 2.5 hours or not? And that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah.
But
Or if you, I mean, if it's a lot, then just have that, the following month meeting.
sure. Okay.
So I recommend that you add those topics that you discussed to the next future agenda meeting around his discussion. I think it would be nice to get an update on 205 and if that bridge is going to be slid over successfully, or are we going to be in the news?
I'm sure you can check ODOT's website.
So when they shut because they're gonna be shutting down the 205 for the
The slide.
slide for like 3-4 days or something. That's really shouldn't have really adverse impacts within the city per se.
You don't think so?
Yeah, we won't even notice it.
I think that
I see gridlock.
I see a money-making opportunity for the city of Oregon City.
We're going to charge a toll down Main Street.
No, I'm thinking
I'm going on
the toll
vacation.
on the historic bridge. Temporary toll. So everybody has the idea what it would be like to do that on the 205.
give us a taste of what it'd be like of Tolskin.
How much money could you raise?
I'm sure they
4
would
days?
probably, I don't know how they envisioning shutting that down
I know.
and where, probably in West Lynn.
Maybe we
They said
need,
they shut down one side at a time, so I think, my thought was that on the other side of the highway, they would just make them into 2 one-lane roads. Because the bridge is 2 separate parts, is what they talked about in the article I read. So they do one side first, and then they move to the other side, so maybe they're envisioning having the other side still operating at some degree.
It's gonna be a mess, but they're behind schedule anyways, I think, a year or
Only a
something.
year,
A year?
only a year so far.
Well, they encountered, when they did the foundations, they hit the soft soil and they had to go that much deeper, and I think that delayed everything. Their foundations took way longer.
all right. Anything else to discuss? Go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 8:07. Everybody, thank you for attending and appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks, appreciate it.